What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Collective Podcast. Today is a great conversation because we are all constantly filled with new ideas. Every person we know has a new idea. Every conference we attend gives us a dozen new ideas. Every new book we get, every new podcast we hear, we're constantly barraged with you should do this, you should do that. So today is all about when you come across an idea that you believe you want to implement into your life, what does that process look like so that it doesn't just become lip service that you declare to the universe you want to get better at, but if you're being honest, you never actually have time to get better because you're too busy doing everything that you're already doing. So, Shane, welcome to the show, brother. Let's talk about starting something new.
I thought you were going to say, let's talk about what you've done your entire career.
Starting something new.
Starting something new and then not executing on that new thing.
I'm great at that.
And then looking back and going, I don't know why that thing didn't work. When we sit down with a coach, we go, I know why it didn't work. And I wrote this quote that we were talking about today. It's your creativity isn't the problem. Your execution on your creativity is the problem.
So good.
And so what we really want to break down today is how do you execute on your creativity? Now, we've talked about this a lot over the last couple of months. First and foremost, I believe you should only be working on things you're good at that make you money, right? That are that you enjoy and don't cause you unhealthy amounts of anxiety. Because if you're good at it, it makes you money and you enjoy it, but you're constantly anxious, you're drinking out of the bottle all day, you're taking Xanax because you just can't manage the stress, not a good use of your time. So, and this comes in the form of you go to a conference, Neil Dingra, really smart, well-rounded marketer and brander, had a great event, Ford, just last week. And so you come back from an event like that, or you go to a mastermind, or we have like Flying Fridays, and you come back and you go, oh my gosh, I got all these great ideas. Yep. First, you need to run it through the process of, am I good at it? Does it or will it make me money? Is it something I enjoy? And is the anxiety limited? And on the money piece, some might say, well, yeah, but if you haven't done it, how can you know if it makes you money? And I would always ask, are you the first person to do this thing ever?
Yeah.
Because if you're not, it's like, example, I've said to my wife for years, I want to own a car wash. But what I really should ask is, am I good at running companies like car washes? Never. No, haven't ever done it. Would I enjoy it? Probably. Would it cause me anxiety? Yes, it probably would, especially right now in my life.
Yeah.
Would it make me money? Yes, it would. So 2 of the 4 are a hard pass. I don't do that activity. But when we decide there's something we're going to do and we run it through the process and we go, yeah, this is a healthy, well-rounded, creative idea. Someone out there is doing this similar thing, making money, or I've gone through this plan and like this thing will make me money because there's an audience that needs what I am intending to build. Well, then where do we go from there? And that's where I think we're going to really get into today.
Yeah. And so, our goal is to not let this episode just be big pie in the sky idea. We want to get very granular, very practical. You came home from Neil's event. You came home from one of our Flying Fridays. What do you do next? And so the first thing, Shane, that we've got to talk about is first laying out what is the thing that I want to implement. And so we've got to lay that out in detail. Is there anything specific that you're asking yourself in that very, very infant stage of this process?
Well, you're running the process that we talked about, and then you have to get organized and have a plan for launch. And this is hard because you're like, I don't have a plan. I haven't done it before. Right. But like somebody has done everything before. And there are people, and I have a great business coach. And so when I decided to build my mortgage brokerage, great example, I'd never owned a mortgage brokerage. And my perspective was that of a top producing originator who'd been a manager. So I thought I knew what it meant to own a brokerage.
Right.
But you have to ask yourself the question, what is the area that I think that I don't know? And that's the definition of a business blind spot. You don't know, you don't know. You don't know that you don't know that compliance is going to take up a lot of your time, or that managing investors is going to take up your time, but somebody does because somebody's done it. And so I think taking that audit and asking yourself, how could I answer the questions of the things I don't know? And that might be through sitting down with a mentor, a business partner, or a friend, or a collaborator, contributor, and like somebody in our collective community. And you run this process where they ask you questions and let them poke holes in your dream. And this is hard.
Yeah,
like, this is really hard to do because, and if you're like me, you've probably done this. You go back to land and you go, I got this great new idea. And your wife, who has a very different perspective, is like, and you can tell she's not excited about this idea.
Yeah.
And then with me and my wife, I'm kind of irritated that she's not as excited as I am about this. But the reality is that's a really healthy process to run, where your spouse goes, but wait a minute. Like, isn't that going to take a lot of time? And isn't there a lot of risk? And what about this? And does the audience really want that? And pretty soon you've got to answer all of the naysayer questions. And that's a really good way to develop a blueprint, a business plan, before you spend time, money, and effort.
So good. And it is so demoralizing when we ask those questions. But if our spouses were dreamers like we would just jump from dream to dream without executing anything.
Yeah.
So we're grateful for them. So we've laid this out, and we've been talking a lot about AI. We've got a big AI webinar coming up in a couple days. By the time this hits the podcast, there will be a replay that you could sign up for that we'll tell you about at the end. You could probably plug into AI as well and say, this is the new idea I have. This is what I'm hoping to get out of it. What holes are in my strategy? And I'd be interested to see what AI would tell me are those holes. It'd probably be pretty good.
So I did this last week. I had a little free time, and I'm on this. I'm addicted to hiring VAs.
Yes.
And so I just last week, I was 3 weeks into a VA, and it just wasn't working. And what I did something wrong. I took a staff member who was already good at something, and I said, hey, do you want to learn something new? And then I said, I'm going to hire somebody new to learn something new. So I would go from having one staff member who was dialed in to now two that weren't. That was my fault. Total failure. And so 3 weeks in, I'm like, that was a bad call. That was a bad call. I needed to back it up. So I went back to my VA. I said, hey, I think you're better operationally. I think you already know it. You like it. You're comfortable with it. Let's move you back to that. That was my fault. Let's go hire a marketer. And so what I did is I sat down and I used Perplexity AI. And I'm comfortable with it. I think it's a blend. It actually uses multiple engines. It uses Llama, which is Meta's. It uses Claude, and it uses GPT. It uses all three of them, which I like. Okay. And as I'm sitting down, I'm saying, my first prompt was telling AI who I am, which is actually the first thing you should do when you're writing out a business plan. Who are you? And I said, hey, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a mortgage guy. This is what I've done. This is where I am. This is my style. This is my disc profile. This is my Colby A scores. And it goes, oh, okay, you're A, B, C, and D. You're direct. You're this. You're driven by results, et cetera, et cetera. And I go, yeah, that's me. And then I said, I want to hire a marketing admin to be an expert on the following. And then I said, what clarifying questions do you have? And it asked me 10 questions. And this, I think you should all do that today. Tell your story, allow AI to then regurgitate your story. And then do you like the story that it regurgitated? It says, okay, you're this. You go, I don't like how that sounds, or it's missing something. Refine it. Then when you say, hey, I want to hire this staff member, I want to do this thing, I want to launch this project, what clarifying questions do you have? It said, can you, in more detail, define your top 3 audiences? What are the top 5 goals you have? What is your monthly budget? And I had actually not thought about, because I'm a dreamer. I think about top goal, like big, hairy, audacious goals. I think about what it'll look like at completion. I'm like the guy celebrating the sandwich that's done at the end of the line, not the guy who's like, well, where do you source your meat from? And what kind of bread? Do you have an oven? Do you buy it pre-cooked? Like all those details. And AI is doing that. And so I did this, and it created a 20-page marketing manifesto
Wow.
And but it was me refining it, saying, yeah, and it goes, yeah, you need to be doing this. You need, and it goes, what platforms do you want to focus on? I said, we're great on Facebook, we're weak on LinkedIn. I said, what other, and it said, you should build a platform on TikTok. You should build a presence here. And like it again, it was pulling data. I think also too, what's important is you should go to I use Audible, but there are some great business books that will just spur internal conversation with yourself.
Yep.
And so as you're doing this, you're coming back from an event, you got this great idea, you're running the process. Am I good at it? Do I enjoy it? Do I enjoy it? Does it make me money? And is it a low level of anxiety or anxiety that I can manage? Yes, it does. Okay, cool. Run it through, let's call it the spouse engine. Hey, friend, coworker, business partner, spouse, I got this dream and idea. What do you think? Define the things you don't know so that you don't know them. You aren't good at compliance, or you don't know anything about meta ads. You need to know what you don't know. It's catastrophic to go into business not knowing what you don't know.
Yep.
Then run it through an AI engine, build your business plan, and then you need to track this and break it down into bite-sized chunks. And that's where we would get into having a project management tool like a Trello or an Asana or any of the others. It really doesn't matter. Whichever one you're most comfortable using, the price is free or low cost. And break this down. What do I need to accomplish today? What do I need to accomplish this week? Like, and again, if you're a year away from launch, you have more time to break that down. If you're 30 days away from launch, you have a lot less time to break that down, and that's going to increase your urgency. And then just start to break it down into bite-sized, manageable pieces. Because again, what we're not going to do is build a car wash in a week. What I could do is have signed up for a podcast built by car wash experts, watched a lot of YouTubes, scheduled a trip to go out and see the top 3 car wash manufacturers in the nation. Like there's a lot I could do. And what you'll find when you do this, and I've experienced this firsthand, some of the things that you were super passionate about, when you run it through this process, you lose passion for.
Yeah.
Like I was going to buy, like when the mortgage industry tanked and I had a little bit of change, I said, I'm going to go buy something like a laundromat, like recession proof. So I was going to go buy ice vending machines.
Yeah, me too. I looked into this.
And I ran it through the process. I liked it. I thought I'd be pretty good at it. Like, from a standpoint of what do I need to do to manage this business? Would it make me money? Yeah. Like guys make money doing this. Low anxiety. Yeah. It's water. Like it's just water. I don't have to have staff. Low anxiety. Yep. But then as I'm going through it and I'm learning more about it, I'm looking at the franchise companies, my passion for it waned a little bit. And I think that told me that whether it wasn't meant to be at all or just in my season I'm in now, if you're not willing to like jump out in front of the road and stop a moving car for your dream, it's probably something you shouldn't do.
Yeah. It's so true, man. This is such a, I don't know any other way to say it. Like this is such a boring episode, but like it's the parts that like keep you from ending up in jail or from throwing, $100,000 in the trash or ending up divorced from your spouse, right? Because you're just dead set on, no, God gave me this idea and I'm going.
Yeah.
And so it's so valuable, but I want to dig in a little bit to the actual like management of this thing. Cause you ran off a few different ones, you said Trello, you said Asana, like we use Trello. And one of the things that I love, and I'm sure a lot of them do this, but I'm a visual guy. And so I also like to write on paper. And so if I'm not careful, I just write stuff on paper and then it ends up there. And I left it in the car and one of the kids scribbled on it. And so Trello allows us to have interactive boards where we can click and drag so we can move things through a process. And so then that way I don't have to go, to our team, to our VAs, Ed and Lay, we don't have to go, hey, Lay, where are we at on this? Because we can go to the Trello board, we can see where we're at. And then it also gives accountability to like, hey, it says we're in this stage, but you just told me we're not, we're still in this stage. I like the way Trello works. It's a great tool. It also allows for a lot before you ever have to pay for anything.
Yeah. Well, you said something. You said this is a really boring episode, and getting really successful at business is very boring.
Yeah.
And I know that because I've tried it the opposite way.
Yeah.
And almost, I mean, all those things, all those negative things you said could happen, I've pretty much experienced every one of them.
Yeah.
Right. Almost
Yep.
divorced, just burned out, fried, lost money, right? Like
Yep.
lost money, or it took me so long to make money. I lost so many opportunities. There's an opportunity cost. Whether, you
Yeah.
could say, oh, I made 10 grand, but it took me 12 months. And what could I have made in that time?
Right.
I've lost business partners, relationships, I mean, everything. And it was because what was exciting to me was the completed outcome. It's like selling the Jordan shoe is not actually what like Nike focused on. They focused on a distribution channel in China for rubber soles that could be any shoe. It just happened that 1 out of every 20 was a Jordan shoe, right? Yeah. And so like, but what made them money was making the same shoe 1 million times. That's not exciting.
Nope, it's not.
That's boring, right?
Yep.
Going to a factory in China to source rubber is not sexy. Watching Michael Jordan dunk is sexy. That is the last thing they do. And so what you have to do is really divorce yourself from the idea that building a sexy business is going to be sexy. And not to say that you're like getting to that point isn't fun. Like having a mortgage company now with no US based operational staff is actually a massive blessing for me and my family. No stress. Like I can scale in ways that others can't. I can weather the storm. And so that's fun for me. And so now it like frees me up to go, okay, now that I'm not anxious, now what can I do? And so I think if you're creative, then the biggest e-brake to your creativity, in my opinion, is anxiety. Fear, the doubt, and so like those things just pull that e-brake, and then all of a sudden you have no ideas. Now you're just checking your inbox, refreshing that every 3 seconds to like get that little endorphin rush or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're not creative, you're not winning. And so I think it's important to use a tool like Trello. It's important to have a business plan. It's important to run it through a process with someone else. It's important to ask yourself, what do I not know that I don't know? And how is that going to impact my potential business negatively?
100%. And I think the last piece to this is it's got to be practiced daily.
Yeah.
Right. We've got this big AI webinar coming up. You and I are in AI just about every day, if not every day. But I talk to so many people that they want to get better, but then they're never actually using it.
Yeah.
And so like while you were talking earlier, I don't know if this was a good decision or not, but like I was like, man, I need to be paying for Perplexity so I can really get the full maximum opportunity that Perplexity has. So I just went and paid for Perplexity while you were talking to like, it's done. It's finished. The bank account has a little less money in it to ensure that I'm going to actually do something with it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to be in there every single day practicing that muscle if that the desired outcome truly is to be better at AI.
Yeah. And so to that point, which is a great way to kind of close this out, there are some hacks that you can do to make sure that things are top of mind for you. So for example, like I use Google Chrome. And so for me, Perplexity is it's the website that I go to when you click on the home button in Chrome. So when I open up my browser, it's always going to open to Perplexity.
Dude, brilliant.
Right. So, or for example, like if you know that you need to like refine your business plan, you have it printed out, you put it on your keyboard. So before you could you have to actually pick up the thing you're supposed to do and discard it to do something that you're not supposed to do.
Yep.
Right. And so those are the types of things. Like if you wanted to do 20 push-ups, get those little like push-up handles, put them on your desk in front of your keyboard and your mouse, right? Like that will help you do that thing, daily, hourly, whatever that looks like. And so I think you're totally right, because when you look at anything, the habits that you learn, 21 days at minimum to learn a new habit, and building a business, and taking on a new creative idea like AI, like something that you learned at a conference. Those are game changers for your business. I can look back, and the reason I'm here sitting with you today talking about this is because it was maybe 2012. I went to a mastermind in Kansas City. I was a full-time fireman. I was doing loans, already kind of burned out. Like, there's got to be a better way to do this. I went to a conference. A little voice told me at the end, you need to get a coach. I walked up to the front of the room and I told the guy, I said, what you said resonated. I said, coming from you, it's either totally accurate or you're completely full of BS. I'm going to hope that you're not. If I sign up, you will need to be my coach. Are you willing to do that? And I signed up that day. And then I just continued every day to engage in making myself better. And it's not a straight line. But I think that it's like, to your point, you bought Perplexity Pro today. You're going to put that on your browser. You're going to work on these things every day. You're going to make those decisions daily. And then you're going to look back. It's now been 12 years. And I go, holy cow, what a cool life I have.
Yeah.
Right. I get to meet and hang out with some incredible people. I had one of my old coaching clients messaged me on Friday. They were at SeaTac Airport at 5:30 in the morning and they thought of me. Like, hey, we're in town for a minute. We were thinking about you. Hope you're doing well. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's because I made a decision and then I consistently work to refine that decision every day.
So good, bro. So good. Guys, there was something in here for each of you. And so whatever it was, I hope you will write it down, be intentional with it, put it into practice, and be a part of our big AI webinar that we've got coming up on behalf of the collective. By the time many of you listen to this, it may have already happened. Guess what? You can still get access to the replay of it. So reach out to us. I'm Kyle at thecollectivecoaching.com. Shane is Shane at thecollectivecoaching.com. And we would love nothing more than to get to walk alongside you in this journey that we call business, inside of the lives that we've been blessed to live. And so hit us up. We want to partner with you. Thanks for being here, guys. We'll see you on the next episode of the Collective Podcast.